Hello and welcome to today's event. My name is Sonja Ament and I'm excited to welcome you all on behalf of the Friedrich-Naumann Foundation and the German Asia Pacific Business Association, which is co-hosting this event today. A warm welcome as well to our speakers today, who you can already see on screen here, but I will introduce them later on though. Because first, I'd like to say a few words about the Friedrich-Naumann Foundation, especially for those of you joining one of the events for the first time. We at the Friedrich-Naumann Foundation are a liberal-oriented foundation strongly committed to promoting the values of freedom and responsibility in society. And we do that through various formats, such as today's political education events, web talks, as well as seminars, workshops, panel discussions. And our work really spans across the globe, covering a wide range of topics. Today, we are looking at Nepal, all the way to the Himalayas, especially in regards to a sustainable energy source as hydropower for that region. And for that, we have invited the following guests. Mrs. Marine Herring, she is the manager for South Asia and Southeast Asia at Germany Trade and Invest. Next, Sumit Bhattacharya is engineer at Tractable Engineering and a dedicated professional in the hydropower sector of Nepal. Next, Bipin Gemir, who is a regional political analyst for the Friedrich-Naumann Foundation for Freedom in South Asia. And the discussion will be moderated by Thorsten Frank. He's the managing director of the Nepali German Society. Welcome to everyone. I'm excited for the conversation today. If you in the audience have any questions during the session, feel free to ask them. You can do that. There is like a Q&A button. You can just post it's on the lower end of Zoom, and you can just post your questions in there, and a moderator will try to take them into the conversation. Now, to begin with this web talk, I would like to first hand it over to Marine Haring for a short presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I think you should all be able to see the presentation. My name is Marine Haring, and I'm responsible for several South Asian countries, including Nepal, at Germany Trade and Invest. And Germany Trade and Invest is Germany's international economic promotion agency. My job is to help German small and medium enterprises with their internationalization plans. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah, let's dive right into the evolution of the electricity generation in Nepal. Here you can see graphs indicating the electricity generation with oil and solar. While the electricity generation with oil on the left-hand side in the year 2000 was comparatively higher, it diminished and sank to 0 gigawatt hours already by 2015. The curve of the electricity generation with solar on the right-hand side is almost a reflection and grows throughout the years. Just the scales are very different. There's 4 times more generation with solar nowadays than there was with oil in the year 2000. Next slide, please. Let's have a look at the electricity generation with hydro, and it would have been literally off the charts if we would have used the same scale as before with oil and solar. Hydro started off already in the year 2000 with more than 1,600 gigawatt hours and was in 2022 over 6 times more than in 2000. Next slide, please. Thank you. The country's abundant water resources make hydropower a key component of its energy mix. So it's fair to say that almost the totality of electricity generated in Nepal comes from hydropower. Not surprisingly, Nepal has a renewable share of electricity generation of 100%. A significant portion of Nepal's energy supply, though, is derived from biomass, including wood, agricultural residues, and animal waste. This is largely due to the country's economic condition and the lack of cheap alternatives. Next slide. Since already almost 100% of the electricity is generated by hydro, is there any more potential left? The numbers say yes, as you can see over here. The Ministry of Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation estimates Nepal's technical potential for electricity generation from hydropower at 83,000 megawatts. However, only half about this is economically feasible. There's already more than 3,100 megawatt installed capacity, but if you combine the capacity under construction and ready for construction, then these numbers add up to almost 13,800 megawatt capacity. Way more megawatts are under study. And private power producers have invested already $9 billion since 2014, and thus are significantly contributing to Nepal's hydropower capacity. The government aims to nearly tenfold increase the capacity to 28.5 gigawatts by 2035. And of this, 30.5 gigawatts will be for domestic use and 15 gigawatts for electricity export. To achieve this goal, investments of up to 47 billion dollars will be needed over the next 10 years. Of this, 40 billion dollars will be allocated to new power plants and 7 billion dollars to the expansion of the grid infrastructure. Next slide. Of the approximately 350 planned and under construction hydropower plants, 150 are larger facilities with capacities of more than 1 megawatt. The largest current project is an almost 2 gigawatt plant in the Karnali province with an investment volume of nearly 4 billion dollars. It is one of the 19 key infrastructure projects of the government. According to the investment board, the tendering process is planned to start in 2025. As you can see, many of the selected projects are still in a planning stage. For Nepal's government, the expansion of hydropower is a high priority issue, though. This aims to improve the electricity supply for local households and industries, and especially during the winter months, there are frequent power outages because the power plants cannot operate at full capacity due to the weather conditions. To close the supply gap, expensive electricity has to be imported from India. In addition, the share of electricity in the primary energy consumption of households is just 4% and around 8% for industry and commerce. For cooking and heating, as mentioned before, households use biofuels, and in industry, 3/4 of energy consumption is accounted for by carbon-intensive energy sources such as coal, firewood, and diesel, which should ideally be replaced by hydropower. Next slide. Nepal aims to establish itself as a supplier of green electricity in South Asia, and the country has significantly increased its electricity exports, mainly from hydropower. In 2023, Nepal exported about 1.3 billion kilowatt hours of electricity, and the majority of this electricity is exported to India, as India is a major trading partner and consumer of the Nepalese electricity. In the last financial year, India bought about 700 megawatt of hydropower electricity from Nepal, which was worth almost 125 million dollars. In January 2024, it was agreed with India that Nepal will develop 10 gigawatts of hydropower capacity exclusively for exports to its southern neighbor by 2035. The condition for this was that these power plants are not realized with the Chinese involvement, whether as investors or as builders, and that is due to the political differences between India and China, which result in a deep mistrust. India doesn't want China involved in critical projects such as power supply issues. In recent years, several projects have already been initiated together with the Indian companies, such as the infrastructural conglomerate GMR Group or the state-owned hydropower operator SJVN. Next slide. Yeah, this was my short presentation, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Herring, and also from my side, welcome to everybody. So discussion is open. You can put your question to the chat board. And as we can see, the Nepali government have a lot of interest to develop the green energy for export, but also for the use at home in the home country. And as you can see, there's a lot of challenge and benefits for Nepal, and there are also for investors risks and rewards to do that in Nepal. And I'm really happy that in our discussion we're having two experts, Mr. Gimeri and Mr. Basharia, both from Nepal. And my first question will go to Mr. Gimeri as a political analyst. And my question is, how important is the hydropower for Nepal? And how it's a challenge or between the two big countries, China and India, for Nepal, how they can balance that, and would they really having a good benefit of it, or would they be always the small brother of India? So that's my first question to you.
Thank you so much for inviting me and accepting me here as a panelist. It's great to be here with the esteemed experts like you all today. It's my first time meeting Sumit Bhattacharya also. Hello, Sumit. Good to see you. And then
Hello.
It's great. I mean, like thinking from the perspective of Nepal, it's absolutely vital for the country in such a small size, but huge potential on hydropower for its economic growth, not just economic growth, but also for its integration in the region. This is important because from the side of economic growth, because Nepal is a small country, Himalayan country with a very less potential, especially on the fossil fuel as well as petroleum products, and then other necessary supplies of the fuel in the country. We buy almost 100% of the fuel supply, not the this use of the firewoods and other thing, but the petroleums almost 100% from the Gulf, especially from India, via India. So it is very much vital for the economic regions, but also because you can see there is a least developed country trying to develop alongside of its two neighbors. You can see after post-1990, India and China has grown up like almost 8%, 7% investment or maybe growth every year. Whereas if you see the context of Nepal, it is lagging like less than 5% almost all the year. Maximum is 4%, and like even after 2021, after the COVID pandemic, one time it has touched 7%, but that is just an exception. So it's absolutely vital for the Nepal, whatever the resource it has to export or it has to materialize that for economic gains. But obviously there are many challenges, rightly mentioned by Torsten Frank. I mean, you being a small country between two big economic as well as a militaristic power, whose are regional rivals, and they want to project themselves as a leader of the region, and us, smaller country, trying to come out, from this, how to say, the geopolitical orbit. We are being pulled both sides from these two bigger powers. So it is very difficult. As just in the presentation, Miss Hiring was mentioned about like why 2015 is a crucial moment for Nepal, because you can see that down trajectory of hydropower until 2015, and from 2015 you can see the rising up. It's very important to acknowledge and note that the 2015 we had two major events. One is a massive earthquake that we faced. That is like 7.8 earthquake, which is devastation of the country, millions of destruction and all, and thousands of deaths. Another, in the same event, we have a political development, that is a border blockade. So, I mean, like there's a debate between who has done a border blockade. India is saying that, no, we didn't do it. Nepal is saying we did do it. India did do it. But whatever the case, the supplies of the fuel has been obstructed from the border for almost 7 to 8 months. So that has resulted in a drastic, let's say, energy shortage in the country, resulting in the decrease of the growth rate. Hospitals everywhere, public sectors all are challenged and then severely impaired from that thing. That is the moment of realization of the public, let's say, political personality in the country. Okay, no, we cannot rely totally 100% on the critical infrastructure, critical shortage issues like fuel and other thing from another country, even though that country is your good neighbor. So that is that particular realization has, let's say, instigated or has encouraged the political leaders across political lines, all the political party, to come up and agree at least to use and to invest massively and to also channel the foreign direct investment to the hydropower sector. That is the reason you can see from the 2015, you can see the upward trajectory of the investment into the hydropower as well as the production. Yes, there is a challenge also in terms of economic security, because this hydropower, not just a political thing, it's also economic security, because it is very closely related to national security, as I mentioned about the border and all. And also India's reservation of buying, or maybe you can say the conditionality of buying hydropower energy from Nepal. There are certain conditions so that we cannot use because of its own rivalry against China and all those things. We cannot use the Chinese investment. If the Nepal is using Chinese investment or the technical resources, we are not going to buy. So there are some conditionalities that Nepal had faced at the moment, is facing at the moment, but slowly I hope it is going to change, because recently we had an agreement with India for like 10,000 megawatts of electricity export for next 1 decade. So it's crucial, as well as it's very geopolitically and economically, let's say, intertangled for Nepal.
So thank you. There are already 2 questions in the chat board. Thank you for that. So there's one question more related to the political situation. There's one question: how is the current contract situation between Nepal and India? Mr. Gimmery? Mr. Gimmery?
Yeah. Can you quickly repeat the questions, the second part?
Okay. There's one: how is the current contract situation between Nepal and India? There was mentioned by Mrs. Haring that there is a contract between India and Nepal about the hydro energy. How is the contract situation in the moment?
Yes, it's interesting to note that, I mean, Nepal exporting electricity to India, not just Nepal, South Asian or the smaller countries exporting electricity to India, including Bhutan, is not a very long phenomena, especially in Nepal. It's recently that Nepal has been exporting to India like 100 megawatts during the peak hour, and whereas Nepal also buying during the winter times and selling during the summer times. So it has not reached like more than 100 megawatts, but recently in 2023, we come up with an agreement that, okay, I mean, we are going to, because Nepal wanted to be a reliable energy, let's say, production center for South Asia, not just India, but also Nepal and also Bangladesh. We agreed in 2023, September, I think, about the supply of 10,000 megawatts of electricity to India, but that's for another decade. So, but the thing is, like, this is just an agreement. So for that to realize that agreement, I mean, there has to be huge investment in the hydropower sector, because, you know, it's very expensive. Hydropower sector using a dam, in the territorial scenario, you can see the mountainous country, I mean, blocking the river, which is sometimes having a flash floods and all those things. So, I mean, it has a huge, let's say, economic liabilities as well. So for that, the investment is necessary. And yes, we signed with India for the selling of the hydropower, but we are still lagging behind, like the huge investment that is needed to produce that 10,000 megawatts of electricity. At the moment, India is the biggest hydropower investor in Nepal. China is also there for a couple of rivers that's flowing from the north, especially upper Tekushi and other one. But also Nepal is trying to encourage the foreign direct investment from European as well as American partners, so to come and invest in Nepal, so that we can achieve that economic goal, and also climate related aspect, because as a small country, even though we have less responsibility in the production of the CO2 and other, but like the country has promised that to go for a net zero by 2025. So for that reason also we need a quicker and a faster investment in the country, not just by India, but also all other potential partners abroad.
Thank you. So we're having two questions here, and that goes more to you, Mr. Basharia. As I can see, you are a manager of many huge hydropower projects in Nepal, such as Upper Trisoli, Tanashu hydropower site, and Upper Arun hydropower site. So I think you're the real experts when it comes to the practical building in Nepal, which is really a big challenge. And there's the first question also, the climate change, is that leading to the destabilization of the mountains, of the stones, and have that any impact on your construction site?
Thank you, Frank, once again. That's what, as you said, I am not an expert engineering, but I'm a country manager for this tractable. But I have experience in many. I'm a project director for many of the projects that you have just mentioned. But definitely from the projects, we are running actually 4 construction projects which are under the construction project, like at Tano, the highest dam project in Nepal, 140 megawatt, and we have just completed the highest commission project, Upper Tamakosi project, with our joint venture North Consol as intractable, and we are doing the major projects. And recently, just a recent case, some weeks ago, there was a flooding, huge flooding, extreme flooding in Kathmandu and other regions of Nepal. And that has affected many hydro projects, as many as 28 hydropower projects. And one of the projects which was affected, it was also Upper Tamakosi, which is currently the largest project in Nepal. It is headrock component that is called descender has been damaged by the flood, and it will not be operation for another minimum 3 to 6 months. So these are the extreme conditions. This is the rain 2 to 3 weeks back. It was post-monsoon rain. It was extreme rain, and it was not anticipated. It was somehow recorded in last 5 decades the highest intensity rain in Kathmandu. And so these are the extreme conditions we are facing on. And that has definitely affected the safety of hydropower structures, because we calculate the 50 years flooding, 100-year flooding, but the future, the extreme condition, the future, which is not predicted for some of the hydropower project, and that can damage many hydropower component, whereas also some of the risk of glaciers, glacial lakes being in a risky zone because of especially for the climate change, and this has always a risk towards the hydropower components. Once it is the lake bursts, then there is a huge flash flooding, and this can impact loss of hydropower. So definitely this climate change has negatively affected and also made hydropower riskier for the investment as well as the locality of the around the hydropower area. So this has an effect, but we are trying as an engineer, as an engineering company, we are trying our best, our level best to our knowledge to study GLOF, to study all the forecasts, to calculate as much risk and somehow incorporate in our design. But climate change has definitely impacted hydropower development in Nepal.
When we had this huge earthquake in Nepal, 2015, do we had any impact on the dams, or there was any damage or broken dams when doing this huge earthquake, or what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, during the earthquake in Upper Tamakosi, we were under construction. Some of the dam were a little bit, I don't think it is like 12-inch got settled. So, but it was not having a major impact. Even this Middle Marsangdi project, we had some review of this. It was not majorly impacted. Somehow it was calculated. This, we know Nepal is very active in it's an earthquake-prone country. So we generally, whenever we build a dam or a structure, we calculate these factors. So no major damage has happened. But during the construction, it has somehow delayed the construction of this Upper Tamokosi, which was the largest project in Nepal, 456 megawatt. It delayed by 1 or 2 years because the whole access road to the headworks was, stopped by the landslide, and then we have to build a road tunnel. And because that road couldn't be rebuilt, it was simply unrepairable, and we had to do a road tunnel, and this has impacted the construction of the Upper Tamokosi project. It has delayed, and at the same time, as Bipin just mentioned, there was a economic blockade, and that has also impacted the construction of this Upper Tamokosi. And similarly, this Upper Tamokosi is just an example. All the projects which were under construction were heavily affected because of road blockage, because of the infrastructure getting disrupted. But whoever has already built, those were not very affected by the earthquake because they were already been somehow calculated this risk.
There's one question in the chat box about environment impact. There is more or less in two questions. One thing, are there new technologies to reduce impact on the environment? That is one part of the question. And would it be not better to use small hydropower plants in remote areas, or is it a strategy to use both?
Yeah, definitely environment is a big factor to be considered, and as most of the projects in Nepal, big projects, are generally funded by the IFIs, and they are also very concerned about this environmental and social impact. So we try to make as less impact to the environment. For example, Nepal has not built big dams. The only dam project or storage project right now is a Kulekhani project, 60 megawatt, which has a 60-meter dam. All other projects are run-off river projects, which is good for the environment. At least we are not blocking the whole river, and at least there's some flow to the river as well. And also there is a rule that at least 10% of the flow should be given back to the river, and not everything should go to the tunnel. Having said that, definitely it has an impact to the environment. It has an impact to the ecology. And there is, as what we said, that we need a energy, we need a green energy. But how can we use energy or produce energy with minimum impact to the environment? So we have to go through a lot of environmental impact assessment, environmental studies, and all the mitigation plans. Only if it is approved by the Ministry of Environment, and if it is IFI funded, if it has to be approved by World Bank, ADB, or KFW. This, with all due diligence, only we start construction. So definitely we try to minimize the construction, environmental impact. Having said that, it has certain ecological impact, to be very honest. But the good thing is we are producing a green energy from this. Yeah.
Mr. Gimere, how you see that the challenge and the benefit to the environment due to the construction of hydropower, where you see the benefit for Nepal and where you see the challenge for Nepal?
So it's quite tricky, obviously, right? As Sumit mentioned, we need hydropower, and because we have very less other economic potential other than hydropower, some tourism sector, and maybe most of the foreign remittance, because the production of other materials and the goods from the country is very less. So whatever the resource we have, there is no way other than using it. But how do we use it? That is the most important part. Because you can see, as Sumit just mentioned, about the flooding in Kathmandu and areas, but there are also some instances of flash flooding, lake bursting in the mountainous region, also along the hilly region and area. So it has affected, and that has resulted in the displacement of the many thousands of people around. and also disruption of the agriculture and other thing. So since as a Nepal, the smaller country with a less developed country, does not have its own entirety as a potential to mitigate the impact of the climate change. But only thing is, what we have to do is like use it, but like try and also develop some adaptation mechanism, like not just for the hydropower displacement and hydropower affected region, but also entirety go for a little bit broader aspect of climate change. And then because, it's like a sort of a balance, and also either you use it for another 10, 20, 40 years, and then after that, because of the climate change and the increased heat level also, the glaciers are melting. So in this another 10, 20 years, you can see a lot of flooding and the big flow of the river in the region. Whereas another, after like 40 or 30 years, then you can see almost like getting down. So this period of window of another 30, 40 years for a country is essential. And then, what I suggest is we should use it, obviously, but has to have the very environmental conscious way, as well as try and use, let's say, try and bring the expertise of the world, because and then for the benefit of the country as well as the economy.
Yeah.
So
Just to yeah, I just wanted to add here, just giving you some example. The Ministry of Environment here, for example, if you have to cut one tree, we have to plant 10 more trees in another area. This is, for example, protecting the trees here. This is, of course, it will take time, but this is one of the, I'm trying to give you example how Nepal is trying to somehow preserve the environment while producing this. And also this 10% of water flow has to be in the river, so that at least there will be a fish ladder and some fish can still migrate from one place to another. So these are the mitigation. And also for the social resettlement, there has to be studies, social impact studies, and now even there is a prior information and consent, like free prior information and consent means informed consent means that all the people have to give a consent before we start a construction of the work. So these are some of the measures of the tools we are doing it to preserve the environment while producing the energy. Having said that, we also have to see what we are competing. If we are not producing the hydropower, we will be using a fossil fuel, and which one is for the now. See, in Nepal, we are, as Ms. Herring showed, that we are 100% renewable energy. Otherwise, we would not be achieving this 100% renewable energy, green energy. And we are now, last month's, the vehicle sale was 60% was EV, electrical vehicles. So these are all powered by these hydropower energies. And now we are going to the residential uses, like we are starting to encourage more for the cooking from the electricity rather than the LPG, what we are traditionally using for cooking. So these are also saving the carbon dioxide production. So one hand, there is some impact. I would not deny that there is no impact. I would not say that. But if you compare this, all the carbon dioxide saving which we are doing, I think hydropower is still a very clean energy.
Was mentioning also that there's always a challenge also with the roads and all the infrastructure in Nepal when you are doing your dams on your construction site. And there's also one question here. When the government of Nepal, they like to increase it, but 10 times the use of the hydro energy, and how it would be possible with the infrastructure to do this these big numbers of construction sites. So for the roads, for the whole infrastructure, what we see in Nepal, do you see it's really possible to do 10 times more hydro energy in Nepal in the last 10 years?
As far as government strategies, now we have a capacity of 3,500 megawatt installed capacity. In 12 years, they want to achieve 28,000 megawatt, and almost 4,000 megawatt are under construction right now. So So 7,000 will be definitely possible because it is in the construction. All the infrastructure is already built. So an additional 4,000 is going to come. Now we are talking about 28,000. There is two challenges. I think infrastructure is not the main challenge. I think, for example, Karnali Chisapani, one project we are just now, government has floated a tender for the studies. It is 10,800 megawatt, one project. Yeah, it's a big dam project and a big storage project. So achieving that, and it is Karnali Chisap is in the Karnali region, and so reaching the access road to there is, I think, not even the 1% of the cost of the whole project. So infrastructure is not the issue. Having said that, the funding is the issue. Yeah, the funding, as Ms. Herring also mentioned, that we need more than $47 billion estimated to achieve this kind of target. So do we have this fund? From where we get the fund? So it obviously has to be a combination of national fund versus bilateral fund versus IFI fund versus FDI. So all additional. So we have to bring a policy which is matching to all, which is where the FDIs are also attracted to invest. Right now, what I would say is it is going in the right direction, but still to attract the FDIs, some of the policies, for example, ease of bringing money and ease of taking out the profit from Nepal is still have lots of room for improvement. So these are the things. If we put things into place, then getting roads, because Nepal is a small country, and getting a road to the access road, I mean to the place where the hydropower is one of the challenge, but that is not the major challenge. That can be done. But and now another infrastructure is, of course, a transmission line project. Once you have this kind of power, you have to sell it to India, of course, and you need to have a proper transmission line, 400 kV transmission. Right now, we have only two transmission lines which is interconnected to India. That is around 300 kilometers, but around more 200 kilometers is under construction. We need more of those things. Once it is built, then it has to have a capacity. These transmission lines have to have a capacity to sell it to India. So infrastructure like transmission line is crucial, and also infrastructure like distributing all across the Nepal. Right now, yes, 90% have 70 to they said 70, 80, and 90 is a different number, but depending upon the solar and off-grid, we have good accessibility to electricity. Having said that, it's not reliable. For reliable power, we need a more infrastructure of transmission line and a distribution system. And this kind of infrastructure will boost the internal consumption of Nepal. I'll give you one example. Nepal's per capita consumption is 400 kilowatt hour per person, which is very much less than the global average, that is around 3,200. So we can increase domestic consumption also. For that also, we need lots of transmission infrastructure as well as distribution infrastructure. And also to sell, we need a big transmission line. And these are the more infrastructure is challenging rather than the road and the bridge. I think that Nepal is ready for that. Yes.
Thank you. The thing you was mentioning, funding is a big issue. Of course, it costs a lot of money to make all the lines and the dams. And there's one question to Mrs. Haring, and pronounce it German now. Is there any program for German investors to go to Nepal, or is there any investors already from Germany go in Nepal? Do you know that?
I would assume that there are already investors from Germany in Nepal, but mainly as suppliers for equipment or knowledge or architecture. So it definitely makes sense for foreign direct investors to look at Nepal more closely.
And is there any program from your agency to help investors or to get information about that?
To get information, I'm sure there is, like, not from my agency, not from Germany Trade and Invest. We are supporting the small and medium enterprises of Germany with the information like tenders. So if you go to our website, gtai.de/Nepal, unfortunately, everything is in German over there. But you can have a look at the tenders. And other than that, I think the Investment Board of Nepal would be like a good website to go to and get information.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Gimmerer, how you see that with the funding? Who can bring that fund to Nepal, and what should be done from Nepal side to be more attractive to the investors?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Funding is very vital for a country like Nepal. At the moment, you can see the highest funder, let's say the biggest funding country would be USA, China, and USA. USA, China, and India. India, I think, is a primary one because India is also just getting the electricity that is being produced over there. Recently, you can see, I mean, US come up with the something around $500 million project for the transmission lines, as well as including the road infrastructures connecting Nepal to India, which is good. And you can see the politics behind it. I mean, like, it's like it has rocked the parliament for another 6 months, whether to accept that US investment or not to accept that US investment. So because the political parties are divided with the different ideological orientations, so even the funding, even though we say that it is important, but in reality, because there is not one single party majority in the parliament, so getting the actional funding, especially the FDI, even though everybody welcomes that, but in reality, if the funding is like a little bit contradictory to the ideological lines, or there is a little bit has a political connotation or a string attached, then they are a little bit cautious about it. And but especially what I want to highlight in this aspect is the European aspect. European funders, especially FDI and Germany and other, are not much politically exposed in Nepal, as it is like India, China, and USA. Whatever amount of funding that comes to the country from India or China and USA, it is very much politically exposed, and they are politicized because of the political party and other factors. But very less chance that the European funders, Germany and other funding coming to Nepal is being politicized, especially Japan and South Korea. Not much politicized. Yeah, there are some instances, smaller instances, but like mostly they are safe hand. So it's good to go for the European investor in this sense. But also, this is an external political aspect, but also within Nepal, as I second what Sumit talks about the internal governance mechanism, about like taking out the profit from the country, and also doing the, bettering the as for investment, and then as well as the what do you call that, political stability and administrative delays for the private funders regarding the permit, as well as you can say the tax refund mechanism. These are the things that state has to work on, I think, because to get a permit of hydropower in Nepal, it takes months, and then you need to get something around 100 signatures from different places. It's not a one window system. So the state has to work on this thing. But absolutely, there are some other factors that is not within a control, that is a political instability in the country. You can see like something around 23 governments in last 25 years. You can just like very big and unstable, you can say, politically, even though there is not much security dynamics, security risks in the country, but politically, the stability is also important, as well as the internal governance mechanism and the tax reform, and the maybe reform on the economic policy, as well as the permits. These are some governance aspects that are important for the funding. And I don't have exact percentage or maybe number, how much percentage or income that the private sector could earn from their investment, the return of investment. Maybe Sumit could say something about it. I'm not that sure about it, but I think there's a substantial number of chunk of ROI, return of investment, from the hydropower sector.
Okay, so let me give you an example with Upper Tricity 1, which we are doing construction supervision. It's the largest FDI projects that is excluding Indian government. Indian government has from the private sector. It is Korean. It's a Korean funding. Upper Tricity is a $600 million funding. Funding means investment. FDI. It's not a funding. It's a FDI. It's the largest FDI in Nepal, and they have. Nepal government has agreement with them in PPA, power purchase agreement, in dollars, and so that their exchange risk is secured, and also their tax exemption for 10 years after production is no income tax has to be paid, and after 10 years, another 5 years is 50% exempted. So these are the encouraging steps government is taking to attract FDI. So I'm just giving one example. So this is very positive. And not only that, all this custom duty for the hydropower related, it is just 1%. Whereas in you can say in other products is starting from 10, 22, even for the petrol car, you have to believe that more than 200% we have to pay a tax. But for the hydropower equipment, you can prove it is a hydropower equipment, and if it is approved by the government, it's just a 1%. And even the tax exemption. So these are all the good things about attracting the hydropower, investment. The problem we are facing, that I was going to say, is to take out the money is a lengthy process. I am a country manager for the tractable engineering, GmbH. It is a branch of German wing of tractable. It's originally a Belgium country, but we are representing a German branch from Nepal. To take out the profit from the consulting, we are the small consulting is rather very small services, but even to take out our money to the NRB, Nepal Rashtra Bank, and this Department of Electricity Development, all the channels, we follow all the channels, but it has already taken 6 months to take out the money, to take out the profit out of Nepal. So these are the hassles we have to face. Of course, Nepal has a tendency that at the end it will work, but the time and amount of effort you are spending on this has to be improved to attract FDIs, because as Bipin just mentioned, that what is the IRR? IRR is as good at 16, 17 to 20% interest return. But thing is, it is attractive once you have the ease of taking out money from Nepal. Yeah. So this is where our policies has to be a little bit robust and clear. Right now, whenever we talk to the big ministers and big people, they say everything is okay. I think if you have to go to Nepal Rashtra Bank, you have to go to DOED. No, everything is fine. But when we really do it in detail, there's some devil is in details. Whenever there is, if there is not the bureaucratic mindset with the people of the government employees, if they are not motivated enough to help us, then they will take months and months, and somehow it has to be improved in order to attract. Otherwise, FDIs can come to Nepal. It is very attractive. We are talking about 16 to 20% return. So, and also the tax exemption for 10 years and 55 years, and even the tax in the construction, tax exemption in the construction material. So these are the policies very attractive for the FDIs. But only last puzzle to fit is to get in the money and get out the money from Nepal. I'm talking about a very practical problem. I'm not talking in the general. The thing is, I'm telling from our experience and experience from our developers as well. So Nepal had traditionally very much conservative about sending out the money or foreign currency, or being a little bit open about. They were very conservative to protect their foreign reserve. But now the condition is as such because of remittance, because of lots of people are going for a foreign employment. We are in the highest foreign reserve till date. I think we are having around 13 billion USD now reserve, and it is, enough for another 12 months of export. So even though our Nepal government is very much conservative of protecting the foreign currency in Nepal and making life difficult to get it out from Nepal, so that has to change. It has to be a little bit open up. Otherwise, for investment, it is a really good platform, and investing in the green energy is what we are thinking is the trillions of dollars of investment which were going to fossil will be shifted to now green energy. Can you imagine? Saudi are building hydropower. Saudi, in Gulf countries, Oman, Jordan, everybody is building hydropower project from the PSP, pump storage project. From there, they don't have a water, but they are just pumping the water to the hill, and from there they are somehow using the gravitational force to have a hydropower. At least they are pumping it with the fossil fuel, but at least while going down, they are reserving the green energy. So loss of investment, which is originally in the fossil fuel or has been now being shifted to solar, hydro, and other renewable energy. Definitely, a loss of investment are also ready. So, but as a country, we have to be a little bit robust, little bit clear about our rules and taxes. Then I think FDIs have a great chance to invest in Nepal.
Thank you. Mr. Gimmerer, you have some information about the transfer of money, and is there something going to happen there in Nepal in that regard, what Mr. Bhattacharya was telling about?
I actually second what Sumit is saying about the transfer of money. Yes, it's just not Nepal that trying to that was in historically getting the inward monetary policy, which is wanted to get the foreign dollar, especially the dollar, and making difficult to, take the money outside. It's just not Nepal. It's also in India. It's also in Sri Lanka. It's also in most of the South Asian countries. India, after post-1990, and especially after like 2015, slowly liberalized these issues because of the size of the economy, as well as let's say, the destination of exports and imports of his country is reaching everywhere. Whereas all of the smaller countries are like still following the inward monetary policy. That is the reason I think that the government is really strict about like exporting or maybe letting the money out of the country. Not just, we can just give an example of students traveling and studying in other countries also. Like we can see a lot of the reporting coming in the national newspaper every day almost, that okay, this much amount of money has been gone out of the country for the study of the students. Which is very essential for the country. But this is still, the country is still thinking about, okay, they're still worried about how to curtail that thing. So obviously, in terms of profit going outside of the country, in terms of foreign direct money going outside of the country is still, Nepal is still, let's say, conservative in this aspect. So this is the areas that if you want to liberalize the economy, if you want to attract foreign direct investment, obviously, this is the area that you have to work on. Otherwise, if it is so difficult for the foreign investor to come and invest and also to take the money out or profit outside of the country, it's so difficult. You can take the case of Ancel, mobile telecommunication company. That obviously it has its other related aspect of irregularities and then accusation of corruption, this and that. But also one of the factors is about the taking the profit out of the country. So which is one of the most profitable country investment in the country. So these are the areas, yes. So we need to work on as a state, no doubt. But also, you have to be careful, like, with a huge rate of migration from the country out of, to other countries, and also taking the money out in the name of different issues, different aspect, education, business, tourism, and all those things. So there has to be a balance from a small state, because we don't have much We don't have much bigger economy, and our economy is not much integrated in the entire global economy also, not as in the case of other liberalized economy. So, I mean, there has to be a balance, but obviously this is one areas that state has to work on.
Mhm. I'd just like to go back, as there was some question also in this direction of an environment. Also, we are in the final 5 minutes. So, Mr. Bhattacharya, where you see the balance between environment and the benefit for Nepal from the hydro energy, where you see there is, where you see the benefit for Nepal in using this hydro energy?
Yeah, as I said before, definitely, I think hydropower production is one of the least environmentally, bad, adversely impacting energy source producing sector. So, having said that, what we are doing right now is going through the very much detailed and conscious effort to protect environment, as I said, to protect for example, Nepalis have a loss of national parks and the buffer zones of national. We are not allowed to build any hydropower there. So all national powers, forests are protected. So for other forests and other environmental impact also, we have to go through the very detailed environmental impact assessment, and we are doing the mitigation towards it. If we are cutting one tree, we are building 10 more trees. This is the requirement. And cutting tree in Nepal is one of the delays happening in the transmission line project is a difficulty to get approval for the cutting trees. So you can see that Nepal is not vigorously developing hydropower without conscious effort to protect the environment. So though we are trying to impact as less as possible the adverse effect to the environment, we have to use the hydropower to not only for Nepal to produce a green energy for whole South Asia. As I think one of the question there is how is the relation between Bangladesh cross-border trading. In October 3rd, just now, 3rd of October, Nepal has signed tripartite agreement to export energy to Bangladesh via India. It's a tripartite agreement. 40 megawatt has been sent already. So Bangladesh have more than 60-70% dirty energy. India has the same thing, all fossil fuel. I'm calling dirty is like a fossil fuel. So everybody, this whole South Asia needs a green energy and a cleaner energy, and Nepal can be the hub for this. Bipinji was saying that we are only exporting 100 megawatts, but I just wanted to update this information. In August 2024, we got a license to export 251 more additional to 690 megawatt. We are already sending to India. So we are already sending 941 megawatt to India. So it will increase more. As Bipinji and everyone has mentioned, we have an agreement of 10,000 megawatt to be sold to India in 10 years. Bangladesh is also power hungry. The whole India and Bangladesh, like the emerging country, as a power hungry country. Now think about it. Is it better to be fueled by the fossil fuel or the hydropower energy? So if you compare this, I would definitely say we have to produce a greener energy, cleaner energy with conscious effort to protect social and environmental impact.
It was a clear statement from you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Gimmerer, 1 minute left, where you see the political benefit for Nepal and that hydro energy.
In the last minute, what I wanted to tell is that, yes, I agree with what Sumit has talked about Bangladesh and India. The challenge here is you can see the geopolitical aspect of India and China. This is also affecting, like, we have to be very careful here. India does not want, like, its vital strategic sector, like energy, which is coming from Nepal, is being influenced or being, let's say, used, or maybe, I don't know, misused by any other rival power, pointing towards China. So that is the perspective of India. Yes, India wants electricity, green energy from China, because from Nepal, because it obviously want to curtail its dependence on coal. That is right. That dirty energy that Sumit was talking about. Same case with Bangladesh, but it also does not want politically that its energy security to be dependent or to be like used or maybe influenced by any other country. That is the reason. So India is a little bit cautious about importing hydropower from Nepal. But it has also other aspects. Yes, India has always remained economically, let's say, dominant in Nepal's economic trade. Like almost 60% we export to India. We import almost most of the thing, except like 2-3% from the northern border. Other most of the thing via India or from India. So it has remained, and it always wanted to keep this smaller South Asian countries within this economic sphere of influence. So this has the tricky balance that we wanted to maintain. If we wanted to be an energy supply to entire South Asia, also to Bangladesh, also to India. So Nepali government has to think about it, not just the economic angle, but also political angle to it, and then how it does not want to be fall within the geopolitical extreme, but trying to use the middle path and trying to balance the relations and trying to achieve its economic objectives that he wanted to achieve.
There was one question coming in also for you, Mr. Gimmer. Is there any political discussion to send hydropower electricity via India to Bangladesh?
Yes, absolutely. Like we just, as Sumit mentioned, we just came up with a tripartite agreement between India and Bangladesh and Nepal recently for 40 megawatts of electricity to be sold from Nepal to Bangladesh via India. This is obviously the first, I think, tripartite agreement that has been reached. Earlier, because of the dysfunctionalities of the SAARC as well as the very less sub-regional mechanism within the region, it has not been possible. Nepal tried during the Cold War also. Nepal tried to get not just from India, but also other countries' investment, as well as wanted to express his, let's say, interest to sell the electricity, but that didn't work out, obviously, because we see the geographical scenario of our country. So obviously we have to get in India within the picture. So recently we come up with the Bangladesh. Yes, this is a very, let's say, groundbreaking in this sense, but even though it's just a 40 megawatts at the moment, but I mean, that's might gonna go up because of the big supply of electricity. Let's say grid has been made and is being made between Nepal and India. Obviously, India and Bangladesh also same thing. So the scenario of Bangladesh is a little tricky at the moment because of the recent changes and the political developments. So we had a little doubt earlier whether the new regime in the Bangladesh was interested to continue with this hydropower trading with Nepal or not, but that came up in a very good light, and then we did an agreement. So other than that, we don't have any other at the moment, but this is a symbol. This is a starting of the regional, let's say, economic integration within this part of the world, which is like because of the unsuccessful of the SAARC, the regional economic integration, regional trade was just less than 5% earlier. But now, I think this Nepal being a supplier of electricity, both India and Bangladesh, would enhance this aspect also. And then hopefully in future, I think they're going to be a little positive direction, I think.
So thank you, Mr. Gimere. Thank you, Mr. Basharia. Also, thank you, Mrs. Haring. Also from the chat, there are a lot of thank you to you for giving value insights into that topic. And yeah, from Mrs. Ament, do you like to say goodbye to the audience at the end, finally? Otherwise, I will do that. No.
Hi, everyone. I can say goodbye. Thank you all for
That's
being
good.
here. I think we're a bit
That's
over
good.
time already, but I hope you all had a good discussion. And thanks a lot for tuning in.
Thank you,
Yep.
Thank
all,
you.
all of you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.